Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all doing amazingly well from whichever part of the world you are watching. I can't believe we're nearly at the end of the year. And what a wonderful year 2025 has been. And amongst all the amazing things that have happened this year, I am launching the Wellness Consultant Blueprint for the second time this year. And on that note, today what I'd like to talk about is the five myths I see wellness leaders who want to transition into consulting, the myths they have about what it is to actually be a consultant. And while it is definitely, I would never change or trade this role for going back to operations ever. That said, I do think it's my responsibility to let you, the future generation, know that there's certain misconceptions we have about consulting and what it involves. And today I want to talk about those five myths. And I've distilled them down to the first one is we think that we're going to leave out putting out operational fires, and we think we'll no longer need to deal with therapists calling in sick, angry guests, a GM who we can't see eye to eye with, a director of sales who we lock horns with, etc., etc., etc. Now, we've all been in those situations, and there are times where we're like, thank God I'm out of the daily rut of operations. And we look at consulting as this kind of holy grail. The grass is greener at the other end, that we will no longer need to put out any operational fires. But the truth is, my dear wellness leader friends, you are just trading one set of operational fires for another. Now, in wellness operations, in day to day operations, office spa wellness operation in a hotel, or even if it's standalone, you're dealing with operational fires. And the business model is very, very different from a services, intellectual services business model. Now, you have to deal with other service providers, your therapists, your visiting practitioners, your personal trainers. You have to deal with them on top of suppliers, your colleagues, your peers, your superiors, on top of, following the pecking order in a corporate organization. And yes, you have those challenges, and sometimes you want to get rid of them. But you only trade those operational fires for the fires you will have in your own business. And that could look like an unexpected tax bill. That could look like a client not paying you on time. That could look like cash flow problems, or that could look like a disagreement in one of your proposals, or how you're delivering a certain service, or the expectations of the client, or the increase of the scope of work. So you are just trading the fires you're going to put out. So we cannot think that we'll go from one place where we've had to put out fires on a daily basis and go to another place and it's going to be rainbows, daisies, and unicorns, because it's not. So you are not putting out any operational fires. That does not change. What changes is that you trade it for one set of fires to a completely new set of fires. And this time, the set of fires is new to you. So it takes you far more time to actually put them out. By the time you get proficient at putting them out or preempting that, those particular fires within your own unique business, that takes a good few years. So you don't escape that putting out of operational fires. The second myth I noted down is that my wellness leader friends think that it's going to be easy. that you won't need to do any work that you don't enjoy. Because in your day to day operations, there are many things you don't enjoy. And you just dream of probably getting rid of operations and working only on the strategy side of wellness, for example, designing concepts, etc. But the truth is, even in your own business, you're going to find out there is at least 50% of what you do in your day to day business to keep the lights on that you don't enjoy. For example, filing your quarterly or annual taxes, dealing with lawyers, dealing with service providers, learning how to sell, learning how to market, learning how to have those uncomfortable conversations with clients, for example, or trying to get paid on time. All those things. There are many things in your day to day, like in any job, you are not going to enjoy and you will find very, very difficult. Now, the only thing is that when you are in a company, we underestimate how much support we have from our peers in people in culture, maintenance, sales and marketing, though we think they don't do anything and they don't support us. And trust me, I'm the first one to give, to give them to give them a hard time. That said, we cannot underestimate how much support they give us. So when we are staying late at night and trying to prepare the presentation and make that presentation look nice, or prepare the proposal that we're sending out, or preparing a pitch deck, that all takes a lot of time. And many of the things that we do in our businesses, we don't enjoy. And sometimes we don't even know that we're not going to enjoy it until we actually start doing them. So it's not easier being a consultant. And yes, you have to do work that you do not enjoy. You simply do not escape from that. The third thing I had noted down is that you no longer need to work late nights, weekends, Christmas Eves, New Year's Days, your holidays. That's far from the truth. I can say with 18 years having my business as a consultant, obviously having gone in, crawled back to full time employment twice. My holidays, I really didn't have them. I was constantly on my mobile phone, constantly dealing with client issues because you want to look after your clients. You want to make sure that you're always available for them. And that means that you will work on a weekend, you will work on a public holiday, you will be called during your holidays, and your clients don't always care about whether you are on holiday. What they care about is whether you're delivering what you promised them by when they needed it. So it's not entirely true that you don't get to work late at night, or you don't get to work on weekends or public holidays or during your holidays. Those are days you also need to work. And another thing we don't take into account is that you don't get sick leave. So life happens to all of us, and clients can be very understanding. That said, if they've paid you for something, they will definitely extend the humanity, but you are expected to deliver. And if you can't deliver, then obviously you don't get paid for something you've not delivered. So you don't always get your weekends back. You don't always get your holidays back. And then actually, you will find out at the end of the day that you had far more free time, far less headache as a wellness leader within an organization with benefits and paid holiday than being a consultant, working on your own, having your own business, and having to deal with the reality of entrepreneurship and how that system is set up so differently than the actual corporate world. And the fourth myth I have noticed, wellness leaders, they fall into the trap of thinking that they're going to replace their entire salary within the first year of consulting. So if they were on a 50K salary, for example, they assume that they will make that 50K back in the first year of consulting. Now, I'm not saying that that is not possible. It definitely is possible, and I know people who have done it. But assuming that that's going to happen come what may is not going to serve you. Because when you are creating your business, you first need to find your clients. You need to send them the proposals. You need to do the work. You need to get paid. And while you're delivering and working on a client, you also need to be growing and maintaining your sales pipeline to sign future clients. So what ends up happening is that you see many consultants and, oh, good God, I've been on that roller coaster ride for over a decade, where you're constantly following that feast and famine cycle. So when it's raining, it's raining. It's absolutely pouring. You have so many clients. Everyone wants to work with you. And at the time, you just have to say no. You slowly learn how to keep a wait list open. But what first happens is that you either go through that feast, lots of work, and you have to say no to clients. And once you finish them, then you're starting to feed your pipeline. And by the time you get clients, that takes a few months. And by the time you get paid, another few months. So you never quite get your salary's worth in that first year. And also, I want to highlight, and I've mentioned it in a previous podcast episode, where 100K salary, for example, or a 50K salary in an employment is not the same as a 50K revenue that you're generating as a consultant. Because when you're in a 50K salary from a company, you get paid holidays, you get all the benefits, and basically, yes, you get tax deductions depending on what country you are in. But at the end of the day, all of your salary is for you to spend at home on your lifestyle. Whereas when you generate 50K's worth of revenue in your consulting business, that 50K first, you need to deduct your business expenses, whatever the expenses are to keep the lights on, sales and marketing, whatever you need. And then from there, can you deduct your living expenses? And you have to notice that you do not get paid holiday, you do not get sick leave, you do not get the benefits and perks you did as when you're in full-time employment. So we also need to factor in that extra buffer of at least 20, 30, 40% more in order to get anywhere close to the previous lifestyle we had. And lastly, the final myth I see our wellness leaders have when they think about consulting is that their expertise will open doors for them automatically, that they're not going to need to do any sales or marketing activities. So let me give an example of what that means. Maybe you are very seasoned, maybe regional director of spa for Hotel Cat's Meow. And you've been that regional spa director now for several years in a row. The properties you are overseeing have a number of accolades, and you can say how wonderfully these spas are doing because, they just happen to be in very good properties and brands that do look after their business. And when you are trying to get new clients, they don't care about your accolades. They don't care that you are the regional wellness director of spa of a hotel Cat's Meow. What they care about is, can you solve their problem for them? Are you able to help them create a fantastic wellness concept, execute it, and make sure that they get the revenue that they think they're going to get? So this is where wellness leaders suddenly get quite shocked that, oh my God, I'm entering into this place. They honestly don't care about these spas. They don't even identify themselves with that. What they want is something unique for them. And what ends up happening is that wellness leaders who have spent many years working for one brand, what ends up happening is you kind of become brainwashed. You think everything in wellness is done from this brand's perspective. And if it's a brand where things are done to a very high quality, you automatically assume that that is the holy grail, that that is your benchmark, that maybe a small little wellness facility in Timbuktu needs to implement the same standards as a five-star hotel in maybe Hong Kong, for example. Nothing, the property realities, the client realities, the owner realities, nothing is similar. So we suddenly find that we are met with a very different world. And what clients care about is, can this person solve my problem? I really don't care about all your accolades. And I find that wellness leaders suffer with that when they suddenly realize, oh my God, I do not have a fancy brand behind me. I do not have my solid position. I'm just the founder of pretty much a one-person show, and I have to deliver here. And the only one who's going to be delivering is me. I don't even have a team behind me. And everything from the pitch deck to everything is something that I have to prepare, not anyone else. So there's no delegation of tasks. There's no support network. And that tends to trip many wellness directors when they are transitioning into consulting. So, just as we are, rallying into opening the next cohort of the Wellness Consultant Blueprint, I wanted to make clearly there are many benefits of being a consultant. And I'll always say that there has never, ever been a better time in history to be a wellness consultant. That said, we do need to take care about what we expect this role to look like. And you will need to put out operational fires. You're just trading one set of fires for another. It's not going to be easier. You are going to still have to do things that you don't enjoy. Maybe you just don't know which are the new things that you won't enjoy, that you will need to do. And that you don't work less. In the beginning, you work far harder as a consultant. At least that has been my experience. And you do not replace your salary in 1 year. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but it takes a longer time. And that's why the last step of the process that I use in the Wellness Consultant Blueprint is about creating your safety net. So you're not just jumping off the cliff and just hoping to God that you learn how to fly. You actually have a safety net in place to help you at least for the first few years of your business. Because when you become a consultant, you're essentially creating your own business. And lastly, your expertise will not always open you doors. Sometimes it will close doors because you are so determined to do things the way you used to do them in the bigger company. And that's why in step 4 of the Wellness Consultant Blueprint, We work on really understanding how are you solving your guests' wellness related problems? Where are your blind spots? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And from there, trying to ensure that you are delivering your clients what you promised to deliver them. So I hope you found that useful, and I wish you all a beautiful day ahead. Take care now.